Hey YouTube, Kira Twig here, bringing you all my Flunderies Yugioh deck profile for November 2021. This is one of the new decks that came out of the Burst of Destiny booster set. It's a very interesting deck that focuses around a bird theme wing beast type normal summon deck where you normal summon out a bunch of different Flunderies monsters and gain additional effects, and also the additional effects to normal summon additional Flunderies monsters onto the field and even get out some of their boss monsters, which definitely do contribute to the entire playstyle of the Flunderies deck. It's a really fun deck. I do have high hopes for this deck in the future as well, so with us getting more support, definitely look forward to it. But until then, let's go ahead and get started with the deck profile. So for the Flunderies monsters, we're only running one of the boss monster, Flunderies and Snow. This is, I think, like a good amount of them are a play on words for the type of bird you or they encounter in the card. And this one being an owl. Once per turn, while you control this tribute summon card, you can conduct up to 3 normal summoned or sets this turn, and not just one. And while this tribute summon card is in the monster zone, if your monster attacks a defense monster, inflict piercing battle damage to your opponent. And once per opponent's turn, quick effect, you can banish one card from your hand to change all special summon monsters your opponent controls to face down defense position. So this can interrupt plays before your opponent link summons out a monster, since you can't place link monsters in defense. It also gives you the option to summon out more and more Flunderies monsters from your hand, which then you can just search out with a bunch of different cards in the deck, including your own Flunderies monsters, and also just additional options for your field spell, including Flunderies and the Magnificent Map. But I just need one of this card. I feel it's all you need search-wise for the deck. One of the other boss monsters we run is Flunderies and Empen off of the Emperor Penguin. If this card is tribute summoned, you can add one Flunderies spell or trap from your deck to your hand. Then immediately after this effect resolves, you can normal summon one monster. And while this tribute summon card is in the monster zone, your opponent cannot activate card effects of special summon monsters they control in attack position. And once per battle during damage calc, if this card battles an opponent's monster, quick effect, you can banish one card from your hand, and that opponent's monster's current attack and defense become half its current until the end of this turn. So Snow focuses more on, setting your opponent's monsters face down. Empen stops your opponent's attack position monsters from even activating their effects. They work very well together, but that's why I'm running 2 Empen. This just seems more like a meta-relevant shutdown for your opponent's cards. And 2, just having the tribute option means if you have Snow already on the field, you can easily summon out Empen to join it for your play shutdown. For some of the lower level Flunderies monsters, I also run 3 Flunderies and Eaglen, obviously play on the word eagle. With this card, if this face-up card leave the field, banish it instead. You can only use each of the following effects of Flunderies and Eaglen once per turn, and cannot special summon during the turn you activate this effect. If this card is normal summon, you can add one level 7 or higher wing beast type monster from your deck to your hand. Then immediately after this effect resolves, you can normal summon one wing beast monster. If a wing beast monster is normal summon to your field while this card is banished, you can add this card to your hand. It's recycle power. It adds one of the preferred boss monsters you need to your hand. That's why we definitely need to run 3 of this card in the deck. And the fact that it is recycle power means if you normal summon it, you're normal summoning out another Flunderies, then that's the 2 tributes needed to get out your boss monster for that setup. And when it leaves the field, you banish it. But like I said, there's recycle power with adding Eaglen back to your hand. And I also run 3 Flunderies and Robina. If this face-up card would leave the field, banish it instead. You can only use each of the following effects of Flunderies and Robina once per turn, and cannot special summon during the turn you activate this effect. If this card is normal summon, you can add one level 4 lower wing beast monster from your deck to your hand. Then immediately after this effect resolves, you can normal summon one wing beast monster. And if a wing beast monster is normal summon to your field while this card is banished, you can add it to your hand. More and more recycle power. Adding Eaglen to your hand, then having Eaglen's option of when it is normal summon to add a level 7 or higher wing beast type monster, adding them to your hand, for the option of adding either your Snow or your Empen to then use the 2 monsters you have on the field to tribute whichever one you need on the field. Just gives you more and more resources to add back to your hand and reuse. That's why we're maxing out the numbers for these additional Flunderies monsters. They really just contribute to the entire playstyle, so you want to see them as often as you can. And I also run 2 Flunderies and Toucan. This one, if this face-up card would leave the field, banish it instead. You can only use each of the following effects of Flunderies and Toucan once per turn. And you cannot special summon, just like the other ones. When it's normal summon, you can target one of your banished Flunderies cards, add to your hand, then immediately after this effect resolves, normal summon one wing beast monster. And if a wing beast monster is normal summon to your field while this card's banished, you can add it to your hand. Recycle power, but being able to add a banished target, let's say you might have missed timing on for the banish re-add, is also a great reason to have this for that recycle recycle option. And lastly, 2 Flunderies and Stry. This, I believe, is an ostrich, play on words. Having the same option for the banish, and when it's normal summon, you can target one of your either graveyard and banish it. Then immediately after this effect resolves, normal summon 1 winged beast monster. So having the option to target a card in either graveyard gives you sort of like a DD Crow play using this card, but then the additional normal summon to contribute to other Flunderies monsters on the field to use. For more of the monsters we run in the main deck, I also run 3 Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring, just hand trap of choice, being able to shut down a good amount of our opponent's different searches using this card. And I also run 3 Dimension Shifter. Now, I like this card in the deck. All the Flunderies banish, so there's really no loss to you using Dimension Shifter for yourself. If you have no hand cards in your graveyard, quick effect, you can send this card from your hand to the graveyard to the end of the next turn. Any card sent to the graveyard is banished instead. So if your opponent goes first and you have this card in your hand, you can just drop the Dimension Shifter, and unless they're also playing Flunderies, shut down any graveyard plays they wanted to use. And then, since it says until the end of the next turn, you still can rely on all your different Flunderies plays, because they banish when they leave the field to begin with. So you're really not taking a loss by using Dimension Shifter. If anything, your opponent will be the one taking the loss because of it. And that is it for the monsters. We'll now move on to the spells. I run 3 of the Flunderies and the Magnificent Map. This is the field spell of the deck. It's just more additional search power during your main phase. You can reveal 1 level 1 Flunderies monster in your hand and banish 1 Flunderies card with a different name from your deck. Then immediately after this effect resolves, normal summon the revealed monster. If your opponent normal summons a monster immediately after this effect resolves, you can normal summon 1 Flunderies monster for this card. And then you can only use each of the following effects of Flunderies and the Magnificent Map once per turn. So with this option, if your opponent normal summons a monster, immediately after that effect resolves, giving you another Flunderies on the field means you can play into their own plays by setting up your bigger boss monsters because of this field spell. It really takes away from their own normal summon, since you can easily respond to those cards just having this field spell set up on the field to use. I also run 2 of the Flunderies and the Unexplored Winds. You can conduct tribute summons that require 2 tributes by sending 1 monster you control and 1 card your opponent controls to the graveyard instead of tributing. It is still treated as a tribute summon, and during the main phase you can reveal up to 2 Wing Beast monsters from your hand and place them on the bottom of your deck in any order, then draw cards equal to the number of cards placed. You can only use this effect of Flunderies and the Unexplored Winds once per turn. Now this card is searchable thanks to some of your other cards we run in the deck, including your option for your Flunderies and M-Pen to add it to use, giving you that recycle power, but also being able to take your opponent's own monsters can take away a lot of their boss monsters that otherwise would be very, very difficult to get off of the field. So I like running 2 of it, though. Like I said, it's searchable. Otherwise, it's just more of a dead draw when you have one already set up on the field and you draw an additional one. And I also run 3 Pot of Duality. Now, we don't special summon really at all in this deck, so Pot of Duality helps just for searching out the proper cards you may need to add to your hand to use. So I like to run 3 of it just so you always have that search option. And you can also run Pot of Extravagance. You don't really go into the extra deck as much, so it could be there as fodder for your banished draw. If you don't have Pot of Avarice, some cards I've been comboing around are Where Art Thou and also Jack in the Hand, being a level 1 searcher for both of these cards depending on the situation you have. Very, very useful. You'll take burn damage if you don't normal summon out with Where Art Thou, but still usable. And Jack in the Hand just gives your opponent, I would say, kind of a useless Flunderies card while giving you at least an option to search one to your hand to use. But if you have Pot of Extravagance, it can be a card you replace with this card. I know it's getting reprinted in the El Dorado Maximum Gold set, so definitely would be a chance to pick up there. I also run 1 Gold Sarcophagus, another banished setup card for you just to re-add some Flunderies cards back to your hand. 1 Terraforming to search out the field spell, and 1 Call by the Grave just to stop more of our opponent's graveyard plays depending on the monsters they're trying to use. And that is it for the spells. We'll now move on to the traps. I'm running 2 of the Flunderies and Scary Sea. When your opponent would special summon a monster while you control a face-up tribute summon monster and no special summon monsters, negate the summon. And if you do, return that monster to the hand. Also, for the rest of this turn, your opponent cannot special summon and cannot conduct up to 1 normal summon or set this turn, and not just 1. So with this option for the rest of this turn, having the special summon locked out of them means they really have to take into account some of the normal summons they can use, which depending on the deck might not be a lot. lot for them to make use of. And also, you can only activate one Flunderies and Scary Sea once per turn. But another searchable card with Empin, but once you set it up, you can basically lock your opponent out of that turn, depending on what type of deck they're running. And lastly, for the Flunderies traps, just 2 of the Flunderies in Dreaming Town. During the main phase, immediately after this effect resolves, normal summon 1 level 4 lower wing beast monster. If you tribute summon a level 7 or higher monster while this card's in your graveyard, you can banish this card to change all monsters your opponent controls to face down defense position. Another way to make use of, I would say, like the snow effect, having the option of just setting those cards to interrupt their own plays your opponent may be trying to do. Being a trap is just all the banish ready needed for this card's spell speed, basically, for going up against your opponent, being able to use it even on their turn. And then lastly, just the 3 infinite impermanents, just the trap of choice to not only stop your opponent's monster effects on the field, but shut down that entire column depending on how you use this card. And that is it for the main deck. We'll now move on to the extra deck. I don't go into the extra deck often with this deck, but you always have the options available. So 1 Leerlusk Assembled Nightingale for the level 1 option of overlaying into this card, just like Utopia Roots and Slacker Magician. I also run the 2 Downward Magician as additional Xyz options with these monsters, and the 1 Zeus for after one of these cards battled, being able to overlay onto it for a stronger boss monster. For the Link monsters, I also run 1 Salmon Great Owl Mirage. It's in here as an option for some of our lower attack monsters if need be. Most of the time you're just going to go for the Flunderies play to begin with. And 1 Barricade Board Blocker, 1 Great Fly, 1 Area the Water Charmer, 1 Wind the Wind Charmer, 1 Nightmare Cerberus, 1 Nightmare Phoenix, 1 Nightmare Unicorn, and the 1 Triple Burst Dragon. If you have Boral Sword, you can run it, but you very rarely go into such high lengths with this deck. And then as for the go-to plays, Robina definitely does help to start off a lot of these searches. If this face-up card, when it's normal summon, to add 1 level 4 lower wing beast type monster, and then immediately after normal summon it, then you can normal summon your Eglen. Eglen adds a higher level of your monsters, whether you need Empin or your Snow for the play. And then after that, you can immediately normal summon, triggering the 2, which they'll banish, don't forget. Normal summoning these cards, giving you then the recycle power for your different Flunderies to add back to your hand. And if you use Snow, giving you more additional normal summons because of it. And for those plays, for the search power, makes it all the better for more and more plays to rely on. But that's what you really go for with this deck, relying on those normal summons and just knowing when to use them against your opponent to not only shut down their plays, but stop a good amount of what they were trying to do. But that is it for the deck profile. I hope you all enjoyed the video. Definitely happy I got around to finishing the Flunderies deck. It definitely was a big help thanks to the case. And as always, until next time, please don't forget to leave a like and subscribe. And Kira Twig out.